I was of the opinion the three teams that come out of Munster would have been Clare, Limerick and Cork. I've a slight change in that now since the league final.
You don't think Limerick are going to come out at all, no?
You know and I know, every listener tonight or whenever they're going to be looking at that, no, you don't
Did you
really mean
overachieve?
that. And only for your beard hiding the smile.
Hello and welcome to Conversations with Cornelius. I'm a comedian. This podcast is about my life, my wife, my likes and dislikes, hurling, football, movies, sex, drugs and rock and roll without the sex, drugs and rock and roll. There are going to be special guests and always regular contributors, but mostly it's going to be me and my main squeeze, the wife. So sit back, relax and enjoy Conversations with Cornelius.
What is hurling to you at its core? What is hurling?
What is hurling to me at its core? And I suppose when I said change a while ago, also that would have changed too and evolved in my head. I suppose there were stages there when I started playing hurling. You know, it definitely saved me as a human being and as an individual because I was a bit of a tearaway. And if I hadn't hurling, I probably would have kind of slipped into the gang mentality. So that streak was in me as a young kid. So it definitely prevented a lot of that. And once I kind of got a glimpse that I was okay at it, then I loved it. And then it became everything in my life. So it was number one for the first quarter of my life, and even being married and having 2 kids, it was still number one.
I think that's the way it is with all high performance athletes anyway. It doesn't mean that your number 2 is far away either, though.
No, but
do you know what I mean?
It doesn't. But I suppose in hindsight, and I'll be often asked, I wouldn't change it, but because this is what came out of all of it, if that makes sense. And I suppose I was acutely aware, right? I suppose when I come on the scene early, and when you set a high standard for yourself fairly early on in your career, then the bar doesn't drop. If anything, it's going up a notch all the time. So that type of pressure I loved. If you ever hear the phrase like rubbing fat onto fat pig's arse, that pressure I loved, right?
I never heard that phrase, rubbing fat onto a fat pig's arse.
Rubbing fat onto fat pig's arse. Like you'd often hear inter-county players to be interviewed afterwards, what do you miss from the inter-county scene? And typically you'd hear a lot of people say the roar in Croke Park, running out to Croke Park, running out to Thurles, the camaraderie at the back of the band. So they come up with all of these ones, right? But for me, actually, it was the pressure to perform that I put on myself.
Really?
Oh, did you? I loved it, yeah.
Well, it signs on.
So that's why it was number one and it had to be number one.
I mean, to me, like, you won 3 All-Stars. You won 2 Munster medals. You won All-Irelands with your club.
No, beating that too.
Beating that, and my research didn't fucking hold up well.
Doesn't matter, you're fine.
Munster, so you won Munster.
Yeah.
But you've plenty of medals in your back pocket.
Yeah.
And like, did you approach club games any differently to inter-county games, championship club games any differently?
That's a brilliant question. And I suppose you also need to kind of bear in mind now, right, when you're talking about the 90s or the 90s, people love to say the 90s. When you're talking about the 90s, okay, it wasn't fashionable to have your sports psychologist, right? So there was a lot of figuring out for myself. And I suppose other individuals had their figuring out to do, but I had to figure a lot of stuff out for myself. Because I remember when I broke into the Limerick senior team, like usually they come in 2s and 3s and 4s. I was on my tad at the time. So I had a fair bit of figuring out to do. So you had to, in a way, become your own sports psychologist and your own coach in a way. So if I was putting on a jersey for Patrick Swell Hurlers or Patrick Swell soccer team, or Limerick opening in the field, or Limerick in a National League game, or Limerick in a championship game, the same Ciarán can tell him.
Really?
Yeah, 110%, yeah. And that was my frame of mind. And I remember one Sunday, I'll never forget that, and just only have to come into my head now when I said all of that. I remember one Sunday playing a soccer match for St. Pat's. Patrick Swell were playing, now the soccer match back then started about 10:30. Whole thing be done to us about 1:45. Patrick Swell were playing a league game at 3:30. and Limerick were playing an open of the field Sunday night. So I managed to get the 3 of them in, and I bought the same animal to 3 of them. So I was driven that way.
Fucking hell. How old were you when you did that?
I'd say I was about 26 or 7.
Prime, so really.
Yeah. But like, if I didn't fully come, I just feel like a bluffer. Like,
Yeah.
that was my mentality.
Yeah.
So if you're coming, no matter what it is, come fully.
Well, and use that for your sex life as well.
And that's 110%.
Make sure you come all the way in, lads.
But come here. But that was the way I molded myself.
Yeah.
That was the way I molded myself.
I think that's fascinating that you would, like, for a league match for your club, give it the same intensity. But I suppose that is the way of the, like, for high, like I've seen it with other players down through the years, that they, you know, it's a switch once you come over. It's just in you, I presume. It's just in you, like. Intercounty hurling is the pinnacle, right? It's like it's the pinnacle of if you can manage to wear your county's colours. I never did, obviously, and most people never do, actually. It's the absolute pinnacle, and it's an amazing achievement, and it must be a very proud thing to, and especially then to excel like you did for your county. It's unbelievable, but the parish gets you there, and the club in the parish is where it all begins. It's the mother. That's what gives birth to the player, you know. Can you tell me about your parish, about your mother club, and what it has done for you, what it means to you, what you like about it or what you dislike about it, or just because we all have a club? And I do a lot of sketches online, GA sketches, and I have people coming up to me from all over when I'm out at matches, from Carey and Limerick and Clare, going, "Hi lad, that fucking sketch you did there about fucking your man there fucking taking the bribe at the start of the year," or whatever. Like, it's all relatable. And I find that clubs, they're all little microcosms, little companies, I suppose, or little universes. And there's lots of similarities, but there's differences as well. I'd love to know about your club.
Yeah, I was lucky in a way, right? I suppose that I was born where I was born, right? Okay, and my back, you had the back lawn, and there was a boundary hedge, and then you had the field. So we were connected right alongside it. And I come from a family of 10, 6 boys and 4 girls. So I had 2 brothers older than me that always played the game. And I remember going up to the field, I think I might have been 7 and 8. And back then, a hurley for a small little toddler would have been a broken senior hurley. So it'd be about that size, and you'd put it under the arm trying to hit a ball. So I have memories of that. And I have memories then of Anthony Camerdy, who was playing minor with Limerick at the time, and I might have been about 12 or 13. And he showed me how to rise it and jab lift it. So he taught me to do it 50 times. And then he showed me another skill to do 50 times, and another skill to do 50 times. And now come back to him and I could do the 4 of them in a row 50 times each. So we would have spent an awful lot of time in the field. And as I was getting older then, there was mighty men who'd gone before me in Patrickswell. Leonard Enright, Lord of Mercy Soul, Sean Foley, Richie Binnis, Frankie Nolan, the Punches, you know, so there was fierce tradition and history in my club, right? The foundation was well and truly poured.
Was Richie Brennis, he managed Limerick at one stage, didn't he?
Richie did, yeah. Richie came back. And
he was a fierce character.
He was, yeah. And his brother Phil managed Limerick then in my early years as well. So you had that dynamic all the time, and you always had a strong representation from club to county. You'd 3, you'd 4, you'd 5 every year, right? So that conveyor belt was always moving once the club was being ran right, also on top of that. So I would have got a very, very strong feeling for that club connection at a very young age, because, as I said, the field saved me. So it was all the club. Everything, in my opinion, starts and finishes with the club. So when I said a while ago that I gave my all for the club, no matter what it was, that was payback.
Yeah.
In a way, you know. There's no point like the club getting me ready and, you know, and facilitating my growth as a player. Next time I'm catapulted into the inter-county scene, and then coming back then for 1 or 2, 3 championship matches, and I play 4 games and then I come to the party and won. So that to me would be unacceptable. You know, so the one thing that you have to do if you're it's my own opinion, if you're an inter-county player, whether it's football or hurling, There's a responsibility that goes with that. A good few responsibilities, but one of them is your club, and you need to deliver with your club. So that would have been my motto when it comes to the club all my life. And it hasn't really changed a whole pile since. That makes a bit of sense.
Beautiful. How many senior hurling teams are your senior hurlers? Have you got intermediate, junior teams? How many teams?
Well, at the moment we have a junior C football. We have a junior B hurling and a senior hurling team. So they're not the force that they were, but they still should be a lot closer to where they're at.
I'm seeing it all over the place though. The numbers are down. Clubs, like even big clubs are finding it a little bit more strained. Like my own club now, underage, we've had to amalgamate. And there's definitely.
But I think there's a common trade too when you look at the clubs who are actually appear to be dominating within their county, right? It's the Piershick in Limerick now, and they would have a brilliant setup, super team, and they have a massive pick. The other two teams that I picked now that wouldn't be as strong or as dominant yet, but I believe will be in time, will be Mungret and Mulleen, because they have equally the same pick. So numerical advantage and disadvantage does play its part, but you should never take the eye off the credentials at juvenile level, because if the foundation has been poured there and the same work ethic is being put into your juvenile structure, then the senior always looks after itself.
Yeah, sure. It has to. There has to be the conveyor belt.
There has.
Mighty. I'm going to just transition it back a small bit there now again to addiction and addiction in Ireland. And I was trying to think of a question for you, Ciarán, about my own notion of addiction. And we touched on a small bit there, but I'm wondering, where's the source? Where's the source of addiction generally? Obviously, it's a different story for everyone, but there's probably a common source. Is there a common source? What would you say about that?
Well, if you ask that question now to 5 or 6 people who are working in the field, and they're doctors and professors and they've PhDs, they'd probably all give a different type of an answer when it comes to addiction. I suppose that is the $1 million question. Where does it come from?
Yeah.
And it's a bit like, the one thing I can guarantee, you and I, when we were conceived by our mothers, we weren't born a ball of anger or we weren't born with addiction, right? Okay? So it's a learned behaviour, or it's a learned... I can't think of the second word now. It's not coming to learned behaviour or substance along one's journey, right? And I suppose addiction has changed dramatically in the last 20 years. And what I mean by that is, right, okay, I worked in a residential treatment centre for about 15 years. Before that, I worked in a homeless hostel for 5 years. Now, I had no idea whatsoever when I was working in a homeless hostel that I was going to get a calling of becoming an addiction counsellor. But he had a different plan. So that's where I got a huge learning and a huge education, because you're dealing with a different type. That's the late stage of addiction, the misfortune with the cup, looking for a few pounds. And there's only one way they're going if they stay there. He calls them. So go back about 20 years, if you presented and you had an issue with alcohol, it would be just alcohol. And we'll say Frank introduced or presented with an issue with weed, to be just weed. And another fellow over here would introduce with cocaine, of just cocaine. Most people are coming out to have all three. That's number one. So cross addiction is huge, number one. But what's bigger again is the type of people who are presenting for help. And what I mean by that, let me finish this, right? This is a massive change, because you wouldn't say this 20 years ago. Like whether it's a soccer player, hurler, footballer, rugby player, whether he's driving a track machine, a Sparky, chippy, or a site manager, guard, nurse, prison officer, take your pick. So they're the type of people that I am seeing for the last 5 years when it comes to addiction. So it's in every sector. And I forgot to mention the poor farmer.
And you started off there going at the end of addiction, the poor fella on the bridge with the cup.
Yeah.
I think that's what I would have for a long time thought addiction was.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's what maybe a lot of people...
Yeah, and myself, I was no different, right? Back in the day, like my definition of an alcoholic was the misfortune on the park bench with the brown paper bag and the 3 inches of glass sticking out of it and doing that. And once I never got to that stage, I'm not that bad.
Exactly. I'm not that bad is
correct.
Probably the sentence
Yes.
that most people who are, probably on the verge of it say to themselves to keep going.
To do, yeah.
Because I think it's again, like, I mean, I'm these are just my observations.
Yeah.
I'm not an addict myself. So I'm open to being wrong on this. But I think there's that attitude, I'm not that bad, will keep you in addiction a lot longer than you.
Sure, that's why they're saying it. Like addiction by its nature, right? By its nature, if it has any little glimpse here, it's going to play tricks and it's going to get you to manipulate yourself. Why? Because it wants to hold on to you, right? And by its nature, the longer you engage in whatever it is, the longer it goes on, it gets progressively worse. And I suppose my initial answer to your question would be, I'm putting a bit of a twist in it. If one is putting their mental health number one in their life and they're nailing that on a regular basis, addiction won't come near you. But if you are slightly broken and slightly fractured emotionally, meaning that you might be carrying a bit of guilt, a bit of shame, a bit of regret, or a bit of, everything that I said. And if you're carrying any of those, that's going to have a domino effect into your confidence, your self-esteem, your dignity, your values, how you see yourself. Then there's a chance you could follow the sheep at 17 years of age.
Yeah.
Or you could follow the sheep at 18 years of age.
Yeah.
So you're trying to get people into good habits at that age, right? But on one hand. But on the other hand, then, I can also say, anybody who engages in anything often enough, long enough, it'll grab them, irrespective of what age.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, there's a good few people that are into my mind, people who retire from work. Gone from work 3 years, all of a sudden, they're inside of me. It happened very slow, Ciarán. I was only sipping an odd drop of whiskey an odd night just to help me sleep. And 3 years later, he's drinking 2 bottles. Because his whole structure is gone. Monday to Friday, 9 to 6, 40 years, gone. What am I going to do now? So it can happen to anyone. And I also know of a guy, actually, believe it or not, who presented to me, took his first line of coke at 60, and his words, I'm still chasing that hit 10 years later.
Gee.
And he's at 70. So my point here is, like, it can come at any stage, but if you're nailing your mental health, then you have a great chance.
Yeah.
But it's a form of running, it's a form of escape, and it can be different for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, have I a definite answer to you, where does addiction come from? No. Well, the one thing I can tell you, it isn't from there.
Is it from there?
Oh, possible.
Yeah. Genuinely. Because when you were saying that...
Cast out uncertainty.
Do you know what I mean? When you were saying catch... Like, I was thinking of the fucking devil
It's a
catching...
bit like fear that you said a while ago.
Huh.
You know and I know, if you're getting to know your God, he isn't catapulting fear in you.
No.
That's my point.
No. And it's do you know what's really cool now is that, like, just even having that conversation about God, about spirituality in a normal way and not kind of a pious way, like,
it is correct. And it isn't that we're kind of, as you were saying, going into it deep, but like addiction by its nature, like, it's as evil as you'll get.
It is evil, yeah.
It's a killer disease. It has killed. It's still killing. Will continue to kill. Not to mention the damage it's doing to family members.
Yeah.
So that'll tell you where addiction is. And as I said to you a while ago, well, it definitely didn't come from there.
No.
Because he doesn't operate that way.
No.
That makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. I'll ask you a question that popped into my head. If you had someone in your, because this podcast it's fairly popular now. We've got good listenership to it. As I said, it's a good GA base, people that listen to it and comedy fans.
And the topic that we're discussing, all right, genuinely, and I mean this, you could have this discussion once a week for the next 52 weeks, like, because it's so complex. There's so many tentacles and strands hanging off it, and it could pull us anywhere. Do you know what I mean? So I'd say you'll get a good response. You should, I know.
Oh, I hope so. Well, and you're right, because I I have hundreds of questions that I have to ask you, like individual questions that you mightn't even have the answer to off the top of your head. But as you talk it out, it becomes clearer to the person who's listening.
Yeah.
You know, especially coming from your own experience, your own education, and your own life experience as well. If you have someone in your life, right, who you think is an addict, right, and they're in denial. And you're like, how can you help that person? Because I would imagine that the help has to come from the person first. The person has to want to change first of all. I would imagine that's the point of starting off. But like, I'm thinking of a mother and father. We'll say, I'm just making up a scenario here now. We'll use your Frank analogy. Mother and father of Frank. They're seeing Frank and they're pretty convinced that he's got a problem with drink. And they're devastated and they want to help their son. What kind of advice would you give people in that situation to try and help them? What would you? What kind of advice? What road should they look at?
And be under no illusion, there's a lot of families out there that are in that situation, right? And I suppose it's important to highlight as well the person that may be struggling in addiction. He hasn't wrote to Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy for addiction issues, right? That's a given. And most people in early addiction believe themselves that they're bulletproof. So they'll never end up like him or this one here, right? And usually when mammy and daddy or parents become aware of it, it's usually when they owe a nice few pound to a drug dealer. That's when it happens. But like, and there's a train of thought there, and it's kind of, and I'm kind of changing, and I have changed in the last number of years, right? And you're right, okay, if somebody is to get well and somebody's going to manage to separate themselves from whatever addiction they have, then they need to be fully ready. Okay, but that could take time.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where families are caught between the rock and the hard place. I believe that they need to be approached and it needs to be kind of done in a tactical way. Now, there's horses for courses here, right? Some might need a small bit of tough love. Some might need constant unconditional love and hand around the shoulder. So every situation is slightly different when it comes to somebody who's not ready to get well, if that makes sense. And in a lot of cases then, where family members have to do, if their loved one isn't ready, they have no choice but to take a back seat and worry about themselves. And if he has to fall once or twice before the penny to drop, then well and good. But you see, parents and family members, you see, they so want to prevent that. And unfortunately, at times, some do have to fall and some don't have to fall, if that makes sense. You know, like I was in 4 different treatment centres back in the day. Did I get fully well in them? No. Was my train of thought back in the day, that treatment centre isn't great. Nothing to do with treatment centres. I wasn't finished mugging. I wasn't finished. And I mean that in a nice way.
I know, yeah.
But would I got a bit of sobriety under my belt? Yeah. But would I have went in for the wrong reasons? Yeah. Would I have went in for the wife and kids? Yeah. Or the job or the hurling? All various reasons, all that stuff. But deep down, I could not see myself at 30 years of age, never again drink a pint of porter. And that was my train of thought. So
Yeah.
I was always pulled back eventually. Sober 6 months, relapse, sober a year, relapse, sober 2 years, relapse, sober 2.5 years, relapse. So that'll give you an idea of the damage and the trust that I was building at home. Broken again. So for family members, it's hugely hard, hugely difficult, because they're watching their loved ones and they're watching them slowly going down the swanny because of fucking cocaine, or it could be weed, or it could be gambling, or it could be drink, because they're powerless. They can't do nothing
Powerless
about it. That's the word. They're powerless.
Yeah.
And it is very tough, because at times family members can get equally as sick, if not sicker, than the person who is in active addiction.
Really?
Yeah, mentally, with worry, stress, anxiety, and sometimes blame. I met a woman the other night, she said, Ciarán, I was questioning myself, fuck, could I have done any more? And it's an all-fault illness, nothing to do Nothing to do. I heard a lecturer say one time, when I was back in 2010, I did my diploma in counselling and addiction. And it was slightly different to college that you'd go to now. So what it consists of, it was up in a tie in Kildare. We'd land on a Sunday night and we're there until Thursday evening. So it's residential and it's all personal growth and development. And this lecturer, he made a great, it left a huge, it answered an awful lot of questions for me at the time, but it left a huge mark on me. And just, if you can imagine 20 in a room and we're covering every area of our life, and that one is crying, this fella's crying, everybody's crying, right? So we're being broken in a nice, loving way, because we need to look at all of our shit before I can look at anyone else's. Basically, that was the theory. So he made this brilliant analogy. He said, when you go home, if you go into an electrical appliance and you buy a washing machine, you'll bring it home, you'll take the wrapping out of it, you'll read a set of instructions, and it'll tell you exactly how to operate the washing machine. And he said the exact same thing then about a microwave oven. And I was saying to myself, where is he fucking going with this one? And then he said, unfortunately, when we were conceived, just the way he spoke, by our beautiful mothers, Mammy and Daddy got no set of instructions, but they did their best. Boom, and left it at that.
Yeah,
and it made so much sense to me.
It makes sense. That makes sense to me as well. And it's the easy thing to do, or it's the normal thing to do, is to blame your mammy and daddy.
Correct. Yeah.
It's like everyone does it. Or sure, look, my dad didn't kiss me or didn't hug me when I was growing up, or I didn't. My mum was this, or my. Do you know what I mean? It's just a blame game, like. Yeah, that's really, really, really interesting. And you're right. There is so much more that we could ask and rabbit holes to go down. But before I leave that topic, can you just tell, just talk about what you do now and where you're based, and a little bit about where you are now and what you're doing. And if people are listening to this and, you know, feel something or want to do something, what they could do to get help.
Yeah, okay. And I suppose that back in the day, I would have had a CV at home, the length of O'Connell Street in Dublin, right? And when I look back at it, from job to job to job, it was all running. That's all I was doing, running. But I remember I was going through a spell there, as I said a while ago. I worked for 5 years in a homeless hostel. And I suppose working in that environment, and at the time, it was a type of a homeless hostel. When you're going into work, a plate, a knife, a fork, or a wheelie bin could pass the window. So it was fairly rough inside there, right? But I suppose I had great respect inside there because I was kind of known at the hurling, so I had that straight away, and I would have treated them all the exact same anyway, because they're all human beings either way. Mm-hmm. And I suppose I'd get to see the real them early in the morning, ever before they hit the road, and they're going out looking for the heroin or liquor or coke or speed, whatever they're looking for. So that shaped me hugely and gave me huge education in the type of drugs, the effect of the drugs, the consequences of the drugs, and watching people go into drug psychosis. So you're seeing all of this at play, and walking into rooms with people who are literally purple, needle hanging out of their hand, the ambulance coming, 2 shots in the chest, and they're out in the streets 3 minutes later. So all of that, but I went from there then to working in a residential treatment centre for about 15 years, okay? And about 4 or 5 years ago, myself and 2 colleagues decided that we'd start something ourselves in around a treatment recovery program that wasn't residential, that it was outpatient, and it allows the person to function and get on with their lives. That's the beauty about the program that we're offering. Now, some people need residential treatment? 110%. If you present in front of me and say, Ciarán, I'm waking every morning, I'm taking a can out underneath the bed and I'm drinking it every morning. How long are you doing that, Cornelius? 7 years. Well, maybe, Cornelius, you need a small bit more than what I have to offer, if that makes sense. But a lot of people then, when the penny drops and they hear about our outreach program, it's nice, it's quiet, it's under the radar, and it's a full recovery program, and it's a 10-week program, but there's a serious commitment in it. What's required is you'd see the counsellor on a Monday and a Wednesday, and you've group on a Friday night. You've that for 10 weeks solid. Also, there'll be 3 family conference in the middle of that. I'll be meeting Cornelius and his wife on 3 occasions, getting the full picture how you're really getting on. When the program is finished, there's aftercare then on a Friday night for the next 2 years. So the beauty about that is it gives people another option. Because sometimes when people hear about residential, no, I'm not going in there, I'll do anything else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's another option. And it allows people then still, as I said, to function and get on with their life. Now, everything that I said there is face-to-face. We also offer the exact same online. And believe it or not, people are getting well and staying well. There's a fella there recently, he's after finishing an online program that he did with us out in France. He phoned me, he's out from Limerick in France for the last 10 years, had an issue with gambling. I told him about the online program and he's engaged in the program and he's still gambling free. So there's a huge lesson in that, right? And the lesson is, if you're ready and you want to get well, you'll get well. Whether that's Tabor Lodge, Tabor Grove, John of God's, St. Pat's or Ciarán Carey's counselling services. If you're ready, this will work, if that makes sense. And the only other thing that I want to suggest is our program, the family support that we do have on a Tuesday night for family members who their loved ones are engaging in the program, because that's huge important for family members, because they also need to heal and forgive and to find their blueprint for them also. So that's what I'm doing. That's where I'm at. Would I have said this 20 years ago? No, but that's where I'm at now, man. And I don't even see it as a job because I love it that much and I have passion for it. So that takes the job out of it.
Yeah, it's what's that saying? Find something that you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
That's it, man.
Yeah,
that's it exactly.
Yeah.
And I couldn't think of it.
Yeah, I totally can resonate with that. I'm
You're probably the same on the podcast and on stage.
I'm the exact
same thing.
Yeah,
there's no fucking sweat in there. Like.
Yeah, like I mean, there's days where it's a pain in the hole.
That's different.
Do you know what I mean?
That's different.
But like at the end of the day, like give me a choice to live my life, I would lead and live the life I'm living.
Correct, and a bit of freedom. Like there is occasions then the wife might say, well, how are you feeling today? I'm fucking withered now, being honest, just leave me alone for about 10 minutes. And next time, a little bit of grub, pint of milk with ice, I'm back again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I have a fair idea what I need to do, but it's hugely important. Like, and I'm saying this in case there's any practitioners listening or counsellors, psychotherapists. You know, you'll only be good inside the therapeutic room as good as you are in looking after your own. So that's vital. Like,
can't pour from an empty cup.
No, can't, man.
And and I would say that it's, first of all, that's noble work as well. It must feel like that's a great. You're getting up. You're helping people. Like you're actually helping people. It's mighty. I had something to say there now. I would say that things are not getting better, they're getting worse. Would that be an observation that is right? I'm talking about because there's so much to be addicted to now. Phones, coke, weed, alcohol, porn, food. The list goes on. Like porn, food, gambling even to a lesser extent. 25 years ago, and you can go onto a phone now and you can gamble away your week's wages in 10 seconds and be sitting down with your wife on your right hand side and your kids on your left hand side. You're having this existential dread. They're just going on with their lives. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot more out there.
You're after mention a few, but there's new addictions all the time. And I would have been of the mindset for a while, but I'm not now. Probably the most silent addiction of all of them was gambling, right? But my mind has changed on that now in recent times, right? I believe probably the most silent addiction out there now is probably sex. Believe it or not.
What in what way?
And what I mean by that, right? The sex addiction is the umbrella there, right? And what's coming underneath that then, that we're presented with, you said it there, could be pornography. It could be dating apps. It could be dating sites. It could be escorts. It could be prostitution. Take your pick. All of them are coming underneath that umbrella, if that makes sense. But, you know, the biggest distraction of all, I'm trying to reach out to my phone, you said it there, like, is the phone. It's lethal. And it's lethal for PlayStation, not PlayStation, the Xbox. You know, you have young fellas playing games, they're soccer games. Next thing, all of a sudden, they're buying Van Dijk for €50, buying Ronaldo for another €50. They're dropping out 150 or 200 a week. And before they know it, their parents know it. They're doing it for 2 years. So there's a load at play.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, is it being stunted No. That's where the graph appears to be still going.
That's what I'm saying, Jay. It seems to be on the rise. So
Unfortunately.
yeah. So have you a website that you want to give out just in case anyone...
The website, to the best of my knowledge, I have someone running all that stuff for me because I haven't the bull's notion how to do it. Ciarán, Carey, Counselling Services.
Yeah.
Look that up and you will find it.
You will find you. And your TikTok is savage. That's how I came across it.
Yeah, and I started that only about 4 weeks ago, right? And
Brilliant, Ciarán.
Yeah, and I suppose my nephews and nieces, they're on to me all the time to do it, and a work colleague, and I suppose all that area is new to me, with the phone there, looking into the phone, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. On one hand, that was preventing me from doing it, right? But on the other hand, like, the social media world, as you know, it's a different world. It's a different identity. And I suppose it's another form of kind of getting the message out there, getting at people who may be struggling, who might be under pressure to pick up the phone, and that kind of seeing something might be that bit of motivation that's needed.
It's a spark.
It could be the spark.
It could be a spark. And it's it's a double-edged sword, do you know? But it is the modern day newspaper. Like I remember when I was
That's it.
when we were kids, if you wanted to buy a car, you'd buy the Cork Examiner,
You would, yeah.
or you'd buy whatever paper, the Limerick Leader, and you'd have a look in the car section.
And if we were taking pictures of each other, then to be in the family album.
And to be in the family, and you'd be
So
bringing
phones are family album now.
Yeah.
Social media is the new family album.
It is.
It's a fact, like.
I have about 445 million fucking photographs in my phone.
It is, yeah.
And I'd be afraid to delete them.
Yeah,
like I've one of Harvey when he's 7 or 8 months old. Like, sure, like, I mean.
Yeah.
But anyway, 2 questions to go. Thank you so much for your patience. You're a
welcome.
gentleman. Who's going to win the Hurling All-Ireland this year?
Who's going to win the Hurling All-Ireland this year? I was at a thing there now last Friday week, and it was down in Tipperary. John Mullane, Anthony Daly, myself, Landers and Liam Sheedy, and we were all given our predictions of the teams who come out of Munster. Like, and it's no secret whoever comes out of Munster, I believe will go on and do the job. That's my own opinion. 3 years' time might be different, Galway will be stronger. I was of the opinion the 3 teams that come out of Munster would have been Clare, Limerick and Cork. I've a slight change in that now since the league final.
You don't think Limerick are going to come out at all, no?
You know and I know, every listener tonight or whenever they're going to be looking at that, no, you don't
Did you
really mean
overachieve?
that. And only if your beard hiding the smile. No, but I suppose I'm looking at Cork and I suppose there's only one team, this was my head was telling me all the time, right? There's only one team that's capable of rattling Limerick, and I've been straight here, it was Cork, right? But I'm looking at Cork since the start of the league to where they're at now. I haven't seen them hit the heights, not near it, under Pat Ryan as a team. And if anything, I'm watching players, and I had a great ticket right behind the Limerick subs for the league final, as it turned out. So I had a bird's eye view of the players. They're even hurling, their confidence is gone up for a few of them. Like, the only fella that came out of that game half right was Joyce fullback. In my own opinion, not to be too hard. So I was saying before that, there's only one team capable of beating Limerick, which is Cork.
I'd love to hear this now. Keep going.
So you're asking me who'll win the All-Ireland?
Yeah.
It's self-explanatory. I don't even have to answer that.
Clare?
No, you know it didn't Clare either.
Do you think Limerick are going to win it?
Come here, there's only one team there at the moment that's fucking humming correctly and are singing a decent fucking tune, and that's Limerick.
Yeah.
And when they're humming and singing a decent tune, who's going to beat them?
Cork.
No, you know that's not true either. Cork under Pat Ryan, yeah. So what I'm saying here, I'm not having to go out to Cork, boys.
No, I know.
I'm not convinced with him yet.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced with him.
I wouldn't expect you to be.
Whereas last year and the last few years, I was kind of saying they're the only team that'll rattle us.
Yeah.
They're the only team. I'm not saying that with the same conviction because I haven't seen them hit the performance levels yet.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. It could be early.
No,
I don't know.
no. Okay, so I'll make my argument, right? I think Ben O'Connor, and I hope I'm right here, right? I think he is playing a blinder. He has the guts of 36, 37, 38 Cork lads.
Have we a doctor in the house, lads? Meds. Go ahead.
Chomping at the bit and vying for positions on that team. He didn't play the same team once in any of the league matches. And against Limerick, I was at that match myself down in the Gaelic grounds. And
What was your take on it after it?
I thought Limerick were awesome. I thought.
No, mine Limerick.
This is my take on it. I'll tell you my take on it. He's a man of his word. He said at the start of the year, everyone's going to get a proper chance. Every single person's going to get a proper chance. He started Mickey Mullins wing back. He put Joyce in full back. He didn't start Barry Walsh. Dodsey was, because he was playing with the under-20s. Dodsey was injured. He did not start anywhere near, in my opinion, the team that'll start on next Sunday against Tipperary. And I think he has them all humming, and I think there's been a lot of shadow boxing going on with Ben O'Connor. Now, I might have my red spectacles on, right? But I love, for the first time ever, I'm even hearing it on News Talk there off the ball during the week, Cork are being underrated. Because our biggest problem, in my opinion, last year was the hype train that came with us. I think and it's impossible for it not to infect the group. And I think it ultimately was our downfall last year, whereas I think he has the more humble. I think you're going to see fire and brimstone from Cork in the championship. Will they get out of Munster? It's still up for grabs. Clare can come out, Limerick can come out, Cork can come out. Waterford are not going to go anywhere. Gleason's back in with Waterford now as well. They had all their Ballygunner lads back after the club championship. We have to play them down far. I'd actually nearly be more worried about that match down in Waterford than I would be against Clare and Limerick, because I know that'll be fire and brimstone. I wouldn't write us off, but I'm delighted that most people are writing us off.
No, I certainly wouldn't be writing you off, and I wouldn't be in agreement with you with the hype as well. And what I mean by that is, okay, when you get to an All-Ireland final, hype or no hype, right? Okay, every team gets to the final, there's hype.
Yeah.
And I was at that final, right? And I was watching it and studying it very, very carefully, right? And Cork are a bit unlucky that they haven't 3 All-Irelands, but unlucky is not going to, no bank will cash that.
Yeah.
But I watched that game very, very, very closely, right? And and what I saw, and I was driving home in the car, actually, and I was trying to make sense of it. And eventually, rightly or wrongly, I came to the train of thought. Okay, I know all we heard in later on about the fight and argument, whether it's true or not true, 'tis irrelevant. It doesn't even come into it. What Cork lacked, in my opinion, in the second half was one leader to show the way, follow me, we'll cross the line.
Yeah, you could make that point.
And that's the point I'm making.
Yeah, you could make it, Jack.
If someone done that, they probably would have won the All-Ireland.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Now, I'm on about one of their big fishes. But, watching them this year, all I'm saying is, and I've good time for Ben. I hope he's successful. Probably a bit naive what he's saying to the media from time to time. That's something probably that needs to be looked at, in my own opinion, because one or two things came out and I kind of said, oh. So he could be playing a bit of a game, I don't know. But all I'm saying here is, and he's right, you need to give every player fucking rope. You're either going to cut the mustard or you're not. There you go, you were given 2.5 games, you got plenty of game time. Not going to make it. I see all that, right? All I'm saying here is, even the Downies at times you get a bit of stick. I've good time for them now as players, even though they're a bit awkward. They are effective. Pat Ryan got the best out of them, in my opinion. They're not near the heights where they were. And that's the worrying part for me as an outsider looking in. All I'm saying here is the present Cork team, since their journey started to now, haven't come close to good performance under Pat Ryan. That's all I'm saying.
But no, and I take your point and I counter it with, I don't think we've played our best 15 yet since Ben has been there. I remember going to the very first game of the season in December. We played UCC above in the Mardyke, and every single game we played, he's had massive. Like William Buckley wasn't even on the panel last year. Okay. But I do actually take your point,
but you're missing it a bit when you're not playing your best players. I get that, but what about the other big guns that are playing, and the best players aren't there?
Yeah,
that's the point I'm making. Yeah, that's the only point I'm making. For some reason or another, they're not hitting the heights.
Yeah, I do. I get that, and it's the league, and they lost the league final. And
I don't care about the league final if they're showing form.
But it's not. And Limerick are showing form, and it's condensed now. The whole thing is over in fucking 3 months' time, you know.
If Cork jumps that fence against Tipperary.
That's the biggest game.
Yeah. Then you've a mother and a father of battle with Limerick.
Yeah.
Then Cork are back.
Yeah.
But that's if that.
It's a huge game.
Huge game.
It's huge. And the thing is, right, Tipperary are fucking completely just floating by. All-Ireland champions, no one talking about them at all. They're going to have that in their belly. We're being disrespected. They're going to come down here to our fucking Semple Stadium and just expect us to roll over. I do think there's going to be a massive battle there on Sunday. And I do think we're going to have to be up for it. Whether we are capable or not is another man's tale. I personally think we've a right chance. But I was extremely impressed with Limerick, and they're the bookies' favourites. They're the bookies' favourites at the start of the year. And last year, there's a lot of pain in your bellies as well from last year, like with the defeat to Dublin in particular. I suppose was a kind of I'd say it probably was an aftershock from the Munster final, kind of a rollover from it, and then the year before that as well, because you've got a generational squad of players now, and I suppose you have your All-Irelands now. You had your little sabbatical. People are expecting you to kick on now again. And awesome. Tipperary are awesome. Clare are awesome. Cork are awesome. Only 3 teams can come through. And I still think Waterford will have some sort of a say in it as well.
I wouldn't agree with you there saying Tipperary awesome, Clare awesome, Cork awesome, Limerick awesome. They're not all awesome.
So you're telling me Clare won the All-Ireland 2 years ago. Tipperary won the All-Ireland last year.
Did you watch Clare in Dublin?
I didn't know. I'll be honest, I didn't.
Yeah, no, they're in fair shape.
Yeah.
But like, to carry that mantle, awesome. You need to be awesome.
Yeah, they're like you're talking about.
Clare will be dark horses.
See,
guaranteed.
What I think about Clare is, and you said it there a minute ago, they have what Cork didn't have, I suppose, last, I was going to say September, last June or July. They'd have a Shane O'Donnell. They'd have someone like that. They'd have a fella that would grab the game by the scruff of the neck. It's a point I haven't thought about that I'm going to think about now. From like that, who's going to step up for Cork this year when the chips are down? Is it going to be Dara, our new captain? You know, is it going to be Tim in midfield?
You'd be hoping he would. Like,
Dara's the man.
He's there long enough now to fucking show a bit of arrogance, and I mean that in a nice way. Like, I'm talking about him, Coleman and Joyce now all the time for the last 4 or 5 years. So it's time now that they need to become men and carry them, because they're the big guns. Like, my point there, if those 3 come and throw Tim O'Mahony in there for good measure, just say those 4 alone. If the 4 of them come consistently, the rest will come. But they have to come. But Munster's going to be very hard. It's going to be very difficult.
Call your 3 in Munster, so...
Call my 3 in Munster. That's a fucking tough one now.
Will you fucking roll us off anyway already?
No, I didn't write Jeff. It is going to be a tough one. Like, it's going. Like, what I will say is, I'm not going to cop out. I'll call it. Whoever comes out of Munster is going to win the All-Ireland. I'll put my fucking house in that.
Whoever comes out top.
Whoever comes out of Munster.
One of them is going to be the...
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
I'd agree
with that.
That's irrelevant.
I completely agree with that.
Okay. Even as good as Limerick are going, could they get caught by Clare? They could, with the rivalry and all the bullshit. But I'm not going to shirk my responsibility. I'm going to go for Limerick, Clare, and I'm fucking caught here with a tug of war now, right? And do you know what now? Do you know what? I am going to put my head in the chopping block, and I'm going to go for Cork.
Okay. All right.
They're my 3.
Yeah.
Keeper All-Ireland champions. Do I rate them as awesome All-Ireland champions? No. They can be beaten.
Okay. And I presume you'll be going Limerick then to win the All-Ireland. I presume as a good strong Limerick man.
Not true, but being a Limerick man. I'm talking about hurling. If Limerick come out of Munster, they'll win the All-Ireland. Whether they come out 3rd, 1st or 2nd, all bets off for the rest of you.
Okay. Well, I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, I hope you're fucking wrong.
I know that. I get that, man. I get that.
And it's lovely. I love it. But listen, the bookies are rarely wrong. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, I would say you're the raging hot favourites. And the rest of us are only looking up.
No, I wouldn't say that. I'm judging my basis on watching them from 2018, what they achieved, the bit of a blip, and they're back again.
Yeah.
The
blip now is 2 years now, though.
Yeah,
like if the question is, if it doesn't come this year for Limerick, I think the wheels could fall off.
100. I've seen enough in the league. They're here, man. I've seen them.
Yeah.
I'm watching their level of performances.
Yeah, no, they're outstanding. They're
humming away. So it's going to take a fair team. As I said, it's the dynamics in Munster that could happen. That rivalry between Clare and Limerick, like, it's there.
Where's that match on?
I don't know where that game is on. And even the Limerick's first game, if Cork can manage to get a result down in Thurles, then you're ready for another fucking hummer. Then Cork are back.
Yeah.
Like, it will take a huge performance. Like, as I said, like, and Cork have proven they can rattle them, and they have rattled them. And you could be right, and only time will tell if you're right or if you're not right.
Like, he's had to reinvent the whole thing, Ben, to be fair to him, and he has brought in a few new bodies. And I think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
he knows what he's doing. But maybe he's naive, as you say. Maybe there might be a touch of that in there. Time will tell. But I hope is springs eternal. I hope that he knows what he's doing.
I've a good spot for Cork. I like Cork. I love watching Cork when the machine is going well.
Yeah.
You know, I love seeing them full throttle, because they played at pace, played at speed. They love the game and they play it right. When they're at full fucking throttle, they're great to watch.
Yeah.
They are, like.
No, you're right. And I'll reverse that back around as well. Even growing up, like, you know, I suppose you came to the well a lot and you had your fair share of disappointments, as you well know. We won't get into them. So when you were successful in, you know, when did it start really? Was it 18 kind of, like, was it kind of, that's when the role kind of started? Like, I've nothing but joy for you, genuinely. And there's a great rivalry now between the supporters. The crack at the matches is absolutely fantastic. Sometimes it spills out a little bit, but that's all fucking part of it as well.
Yeah, and I can't now. It's just after coming to me now. We can't finish yet. I have to bring this up. It just came to me there, right? Right, and even after the All-Ireland. And there's surely a reason for this now, right? And okay, and the final whistle went and Tipperary won the All-Ireland. What's after happening in a short space of time that, you know, that people out there they didn't really mind you not winning it? Meaning you're not the flavour of the month, like.
What do you mean? What that
are you telling me you haven't sensed that? The amount of people that wanted Tipperary to fucking win the All-Ireland was frightening, like.
Oh, outside of Cork?
Yes, that's my point. What's after happening there?
I think there's
you know what I'm saying now?
I do. Yeah, it was like it's always.
And I'm being honest, I don't know where it's after.
An anti kind of Cork rhetoric.
Yes. All of a sudden,
I think again it comes down to online. Years ago, there's hardly any. You know, if you go to a match years ago, right, you'd read about it in the Examiner the next day. Okay, you might watch it on the Sunday game. If you're down the pub, you might talk to some fella about it. Done. But now there's people like myself, I make GA content the whole time, and then there's people coming on, commenting, and it's just far more out there now. And then Cork cockiness or arrogance or like...
But there is a bit of an anti-Cork out there, isn't there?
There is definitely anti-Cork out there. I'm stand up for Cork people.
You're dead right.
We love where we're from.
I was only exploring, I was only curious.
But Ciarán, you're spot on.
Because it was never there, like.
Yeah.
And I sensed it for the first time last year. After that final.
Yeah.
I'm walking out of the game.
We need to use it though.
And to your fucking advantage.
We need to use it.
There's no point crying about it.
No, it needs to be fueled.
And I could kind of sense it. I was hearing it. And as I was walking out, I said, fuck it.
Yeah. But you're even the fallout. You were talking about there about the rumours that were going around. I think they were all fucked. A load of bollocks as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But like... They got, like, it was like a bushfire. It fucking took off. I was being sent things into my WhatsApp, like those, again, online phones. There's too much information out there now. And then people have opinions and strong opinions, and they mightn't even know what they're talking about half the time.
Yeah, and tough, that to be fair, to lose 2 all finals in a short space of time. It happened to us 94, 96. Not easy, tough going, takes a while to come back.
No, and, you know, at the end of the day, they're only lads.
That's all, 110%.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I wish them well, and I wish Limerick well, and I wish them all well, and no injuries, and great games. But Ciarán, I have some bad news for you, man.
Pulling the handbrake? That's not bad news.
The bad news is you've been convicted of a crime that you didn't commit.
Go on.
And you've been sentenced.
Say it again.
You've been convicted of a crime that you did not commit.
Correct.
You've been sentenced.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Well, this time the judge has had enough, and he's sentenced you to death.
Okay.
All right, you're in the jail. The jailer's after taking pity on you. He's a Limerick fan. He said, Ciarán, you can have a last meal. I'll throw in a starter and I'll throw in a finisher as well.
Okay.
You can have anything you want.
Anything I want in accordance to a starter.
A starter.
Right, okay. Okay, and I'll keep it as real as I can now.
Yeah. You can have anything you want now.
Right, anything I want. Okay. Yeah, I'll keep it real. I'd go for garlic prawns for starters.
Every cunt wants fish on this fucking podcast.
Yeah, fish pie. You were the one who mentioned coming a while ago. And what would I have? What would I have for main course? Do you know what? No, I'll stick with it. Bacon, cabbage, floury potatoes, Kerrygold butter, brown sauce, pint of milk with ice. Good luck and thanks.
Beautiful. That's about as traditional an Irish dinner you could have. Beautiful. I might have a bit of parsley sauce with that. That'd be
if it's there, I'd fuck it in.
Yeah. Beautiful. Gorgeous. Floury potatoes, Kerrygold, bacon, cabbage. Oh, lovely. A friend of mine always drinks a pint of milk. He's on the podcast here, a bit the mine guy as well. I'd go maybe a pint of water myself, but that's beautiful.
Yeah, no,
beautiful.
I wouldn't have the milk all the time, and that time it's grand. But that for a final dinner, yeah, good luck and thanks.
Lovely. And then you can have something sweet.
Something sweet. So I wouldn't be big into desserts now, but if I was to go for something sweet, I'd probably go for a little touch of banaffy pie.
Banaffy pie. Banana. Can't get it all right.
No, all right.
Ciarán, Carey, it has been an absolute pleasure for me to talk to you. Thank you so much for, I know it took you an hour and a half, an hour and 35 to come up from Limerick tonight, and I appreciate your time. And thank you so much, and I wish you the best.
Very well. Pleasure, man. Good to see you.
Talk to you soon. That's a good handshake, my friend. That's fucking that. All right.